We're just snacking on Junior Mints. That's all we're doing. Alright. Got my water so I don't piss off Stay Hydrated bot. My smart water. Okay. What are we doing here? We're doing things. We're gonna go take a rest and read Adventure 10 to Miss Caitlin, and it'll be pretty sweet. Do-do-do-do-do-do! Wah, wah, wah! Okay. Let's get to reading, shall we? Because we got Adventure 10. Yay, a book! Will you read it to me? Okay. Chapter 10, The Day the Sky Fell. That new star sure is pretty. I can't wait for Marival to show us through her telescope. Carrying the bucket filled with bait, Reese, dressed in summer clothes, raised his arm. Yeah, I wonder if Marival's costume is dry by now. I laughed as I recalled the sight of her falling into the water. I don't know about that, but Violetta and Marival should be waiting. Let's hurry up. The black roofs of the Bubka mansion loomed out of the orange sky. Marival's costume was put out to dry on the balcony of Violetta's room. We asked the maid at the doorway to tell the two we arrived. We leaned against the brick wall and waited for them. After a while, Violetta came down dressed in a white-laced summer dress, accompanied by Marival, dressed in a delicately embroidered red dress. Costumes do not dry well. I must admit it was rather careless of me. But the fishing was fun, added Marival as she sagged her head down. Well, summer's just begun, so let's go fishing again when the costume is dried up. He's right, by the way. That dress looks really good on you, Marival. Did Violetta arrange that for you? Yes, it's my big sister's dress, but it contrasts well with her white skin. Of course it does. I belong to a race of beauty. It's good that she's back in a good mood, but she's such a queen. Then, milady, the sun has fallen. Shall we start for our new star observation party? I said as I shrugged my shoulders. Marival snuffed shortly and said, All right, everyone. Are we ready? I guess we are. We helped Red and Blue carry the telescope into the inner court. Hand that to me. Marival peeked into the eyepiece and adjusted the fine adjustment dial. Then she gasped one big breath. What is it? She had an unusually serious face. Ah, it's nothing. The telescope is set on the new star. Go ahead and look as much as you like. Saying that, Marival sat down on the edge of the fountain. Yeah. Feeling perplexed, we nodded and took turns peeking into the lens. It's a beautiful light. Yeah. Reese and Violetta smiled at each other. I quietly snuck away, trying not to bother the two, and sat next to Marival. Marival was touching the embroidery with her fingertips when she looked up and noticed me. Jack, how is the aircraft coming? Huh? Yeah, the motor works great on my new craft. Her sudden question surprised me, but I answered casually. You know, 'cause it's Casual Friday. I see, Jack. Do you remember what we promised? Of course I do. That's one of my biggest motivations. I see, Jack. Do you remember what we promised? Of course I do. What the hell? I'm glad if it is. What's wrong? You don't seem to be yourself today. It's nothing, said Marival as she combed her long blonde hair. It's probably just my imagination. Is there something troubling you? I'll do anything if I can help. I'm thankful if you say so. She dusted herself off and stood up. It's late now. Everyone go home for tonight and watch some bonga videos. Her shadowy expression bothered me, but I didn't want to trouble Marival, so we left the Crimson Castle. Well, that's too bad. The swallow, nesting on the window roof of the music room, flew by the window. Watching the evening primrose waving in the wind, I suppressed a yawn. Ah, it's a great day. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I looked in the direction of Marivol's castle. Huh? I saw an out-of-season sand cloud on the outskirts of town. It came closer and closer to town along with a small shadow inside. I only know one such vehicle. Marivol's anti-gravity bike? It can't be, but it is. It's the middle of the day. Even her costume is still at Violetta's place. Wiping the sweat off of my forehead, I squint my eyes to look more closely. Two small round objects followed right behind her. Her long blonde hair blinked in the sunlight. A rolling of a pencil ringed inside the quiet classroom. I got penciled! You kids are getting an F for this. It's really Marivol. Jack, what's the matter? Ignoring the teacher's call, I opened the door and ran out into the courtyard. Marivol! Seeing her burnt red skin, I ran out of words. I lent her my shoulder and led her to the shade of a tree. Red and blue circled above her worriedly as she lay down on her back. Ouch! Marivol's face crinkled in pain. Looks like the cloth of the dress rubbed against her burnt skin. Sorry. Don't worry. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead, but she managed to answer me. When I laid her down trying to comfort her, Reese and Violetta finally came out into the courtyard. As each of us laid words trying to comfort her, Marivol glanced over us with a strange and kindly face. For some reason, I felt my heart freeze. Probably ate too much ice cream. She licked her cracked lips, looked squarely into my eyes, and said, "Listen to me closely. That new star is a large meteor. According to my measurements, it's going to hit this town around midnight." What did you say? Somewhere, a skylark flew up and let off a big chirp. The sun flared white in our eyes, and the same lazy shine illuminated the day. That doesn't sound good. Taking over the broadcast room, we looked at the townspeople gathered in the courtyard under the afternoon sun and sighed. Looks like no one believes us. Miss Dahlia and my uncle are trying to rally them, but... Oh, what are we supposed to do? As I flustered around, Reese raised his voice in surprise. Jack, Mr. Bubka's here. Pinning our noses to the window, Mr. Bubka faced the townspeople. Violetta turned pale and ran towards Mr. Bubka, but she's too late. As we watched holding our breaths, Mr. Bubka got onto the stand. With his thickly voice, he announced, "I believe in what my daughter said, so..." Pausing his words, he glanced over everyone's face. "Everyone, can you help me take all of my riches to the mountain? If there really is a monster at the castle, I will give you all the money that you helped carry." When he finished his words, a commotion ran through the people. The townspeople gathered around Mr. Bubka like wolves. "Mr. Bubka, are you sure of that?" "Yes, I promised in front of this many people. I, Bubka, never break promises." "I don't know about that." Mr. Bubka nodded deeply. Then one by one the people went inside Mr. Bubka's house. Watching everyone greedily carry out all the valuables that they can carry, Violetta sighed. "Thank you, Papa." I just wanted to guard my precious treasures. But I'm so proud of you. You were so wonderful." Looking down at Violetta through his sunglasses, he dropped the ashes of his cigar and said embarrassingly, "There's no time to be saying such things. We have to get to the ruins, too." Gathering the people, surprised to see a magnificent castle thought to be in ruins, he went into the Great Hall. Is a meteor really going to fall? A man who was walking around nervously at the well-appointed room pointed his finger at me. "He flipped him off! He flipped off a kid! You can't do that on television. Can't even do that on HBO." "Yeah, it'll come." I crossed my arms and looked back at him. We've been listening to Dahlia's radio, but there's been no such news. Probably listening to CAS 106. Aw, yeah. He's right about the radio. It's been left on, thinking that it might tell us something, but so far it's only playing the normal radio program. "Hey, Sonny, you haven't been seduced by that blood-sucking monster that's said to live here." A wave of fear aroused among the people as they heard what he said. "Yeah? Otherwise there's no way any old ruin can turn into such a great castle. This must be an evil contraption. It may be smarter if we go back. What should we do? Jack? Personally, I'd rather just leave the guys who want to leave on their own. But I know I'll regret it if I allow them to do that. Darn. Hey, Reese. How about we get Marival to forcefully seal the gates? They'll panic if we do such a thing. You're right about that. The confusion kept spreading as we tried to come up with a solution. That's too bad. Right then, the beautiful melody of a piano played on the radio. Reese sprang his face up. Mother. They might do a, Mitch and Barnes skit. You never know. On top of the flowing melody, the DJ announced, "Today's guest on Radio 9 is Ms. Karina Farlane. The song title is A Sonata for an Early Summer Night." Radio 9 must be the competition for CAS 106. So that's interesting. Reese nods once and took out his bow and violin. An ensemble of piano and violin resounds through the great hall. Like the disappearing of shadows in the morning sun, the people stopped their talking and listened in to the two's intertwined melodies. Rubbing my chest down in relief, someone pulled on my sleeve. Glancing back, it was Violetta, who had taken Marival up to her chambers. "Jack, Marival wants to talk to you." "Okay, thanks." I walked quietly out of the great hall. Laying inside her coffin, covered with velvet, Marival looked smaller than ever before. Marival? She quietly laughed as I called her name timidly. "There are 2 things I need to ask of you." I grasped her hands as she added, "Will you do it for me?" This is a good song, by the way. The first one is to contact Anastasia, who is in the neighboring town, and inform her of the situation, and request for help. She is the daughter of a minor nobleman. She will be of help for sure. And she's also the sword magus, if you recall, from Wild Arms 2. I got it. The shortwave radio. That's correct. Red and blue will tell you how to use it. Marival's chest heaved up and coughed. "Marival, no worries. I will not die. It's just that I burn too much skin." "Are you really sure?" "Aye, but I must go into deep sleep for a while." "She's gotta hibernate." "Don't give me such a face, Jack. Will you listen to my other wish?" She looked satisfied as I nodded up and down. "My other wish is that you will not break our promise. You may use the fruits of my research of the Emma motor as you will." The Emma motor. Wild Arms 1 reference. Emma motor? It's one of the lost technologies. It works by returning a higher output energy than its input energy. It should serve useful for your plane. Maybe now he can make the proto-wing. Thank you. I'll put it to good use. Truthfully, I wanted to solve its mystery with you before. Marival laughed weakly for a moment, but quickly went back to a serious face. This is the first time I'm on the side of leaving someone behind. Jack, now I understand your sadness. Marival held my hand and whispered, "It's strange. I am not afraid of the falling darkness, but your pain makes my heart sorrow." Ah, don't say such an ominous thing. Are you going to break our promise of our first flight? Scared and agonized, I grabbed her hand and yelled. Jack, With trembling fingers, Marival pulled my hand close. My eyes blurred from the tears as an ear-shattering roar came falling from the sky. And then her mouth moved faintly. Not able to hear it, I pulled my ear closer when the white light colored the world. Oh boy. And that concludes Chapter 10. Thanks, that was fun. Now, in order to get the last one, I think you just want to talk to her. While I was cleaning your room, I found this book from the bottom of all your research material. I think it's a book Caitlin's been wanting to read. Would you read it to her? So we get Adventure 11, the final chapter. Aw, yeah. Adventure 11. A children's story titled 7 Years Later. Oh boy. Isn't that exciting? But we'll take another rest before we read the final one. It's what Vegastar would want, you know? He would approve of such a thing. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Adventure 11. Alright, let's do it. Final chapter. 7 years later. The fountain I rested on contained the same clear water as it did that day. Under the setting sun, I planted my elbow and looked up at the sky. You know, I gotta admire myself. I talked to myself, remembering all the events of the last 7 years. Jack, the final check is okay. Hey, you're still shooting the breeze? Oops, sorry about that. Okay, I'll be going up now. Waving to my assistant, I stood up with a little wobble. I stepped inside the castle. The cold and dry air surrounded me. This is an interesting song to use, though. Everything's the same. The commotion in the inner court seems like a different world. Talking to myself, I walked down the spiral stairs to Marival's chambers. Just like before, red and blue guarded her doors. They opened their eyes at the sound of my footsteps. Long time no see. When I called them, they glanced at each other, as if in discussion, and stepped back from the door. I took a deep breath and fixed my hair. And then I opened the door. What if she's not there? I shook the stray thought out of my head and took the lid off the coffin. There she was. Just as I saw her last, she laid there with her eyes closed. Marival. I called her name so nervously that I almost made myself laugh. Her eyelids quivered, and then her sweet red eyes appeared. I peeked into her eyes, still a little unfocused. Good morning. Slowly her eyes regained a soft light. So I guess she slept for 7 years. That must have been a good sleep. Haha, you're earlier than I expected. Marival sat up and smiled as she added that she expected I'd be a grandpa. Thanks to the Emma motor, as I winked at her, Marival bent her lips, looking a little sour. At least she's not salty. You've grown mighty big. Sit down. You're tiring my neck. Oh, sure. Sitting down as told, she stood up. While Marival stood in front of the mirror to brush her hair, I told her everything that happened till now. About Canavan and Grandma getting remarried for Grandma, but that they had gone away. About Reese and his mother putting out a record together that sold really well. About Mr. Bubka becoming mayor and successfully rebuilding Courtley. Is Courtley! So what about Reese and Violetta? Those two are the same as always. They're in the inner court right now, so it's better to see for yourself. I can't wait to see them. Marival, who had a ribbon tied, smiled inside the mirror. Aren't you cold? Her small shoulders shivered as she walked up the spiral stairs. Ah, well, yes I am. The season has changed since I started sleeping. Then put this jacket over you. I took my jacket off and handed it to her. It reeks of smoke, and it's way too baggy for me. Marival wrinkled her nose. You used to be small enough to disguise as a girl. Don't remind me of that one. Coming up to the inner court, Reese and Violetta came running to us. Long time no see, Marival. Oh, you two look well. You too, Marival. You're the epitome of beauty as ever. Violetta laughed with red lipstick on her lips. Violetta, you become a fair lady. Thanks, Marival. I was thinking I've gotten a little attractive myself. Well... Reese doesn't seem to have changed much, though. Surely his good looks, like a cameo actor, haven't changed, and his build is thin as or thinner than that of Violetta's. Reese has such an economic body. He never gets fat no matter how much I feed him. I feel I'm getting fatter in his place, added Violetta as she bent her brows. Eating as much as you do, anyone would get fat. Reese answered leisurely and laughed. You two haven't changed. Are you two living together now? Yeah, both of us out of volunteer spirit, right? Reese answered for Violetta, who turned all red. By the way, Jack, shouldn't you be going now? Your assistant has been minding the clock. It's all over when you get an easygoing guy like Reese minding your time. Yeah, I guess so. Getting on from the pilot's side, I lent my hand to Marival, who was getting on from the other side. Oh yes, I almost forgot. I baked you some apple pie. Please eat in the air if you have the luxury. Checking the meters, Reese poked his head into the window and handed us a nice smelling box. Smelling box? Oh, a nice smelling box. Okay, I see. That makes sense. Thanks. It's been a long time since I had your apple pie. I appreciate your wonderful in-flight meal. You're very welcome. Shaking hands with Marival, the two stepped back from the plane. Please be careful. I'll be praying for your safe return. Replying back to the waving two with a military salute, I closed the windshield. Going through the final checklist, I opened my mouth and asked, So Marival, I've been meaning to ask you this for a long time, but when that meteorite fell, what did you say to me? You remembered. When I returned, of course, Marival turned to the window, her blushed red cheeks reflected in the glass. Just forget about such a thing. No, I won't. It's been on my mind for 7 years. Pretty please, I beg you. You become quite ill-natured. You think so? Confirming that the machine condition turned out all green, I flipped the switches one by one. Putting on the goggles I handed her, she pouted her lips and muttered, Don't you have any self-consciousness? Do you really want to know? I nodded to the eyes behind the goggles. I said that I'm glad we were friends. What? Her eyes caught me as I blinked my eyes. I am glad that we were friends, and I am proud of it. That's what I said. Marival grumbled. Don't make me say such things. Don't make me come over there. But I couldn't help myself from grinning uncontrollably. Say, friend, will you pull this lever with me? I put my hand on the control stick and urged Marival to do the same. She turned round-eyed for a second, but soon softened her gaze. Very well, let us pull together, because it's dangerous to pull alone. I mean, what? Marival's cold hand wrapped over mine. Synchronizing our breaths, we start the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Blast off, and such. Take off. Our flying machine blasted off with an explosive sound into the sky of the evening star. And that concludes the story. Thanks, that was fun. Now I think you want to talk to her again. Thank you for collecting all the books. I spent a lot of time with Daddy, too. The final chapter was short. Here, I want you to have this. Isn't it pretty? It's a token of my appreciation. And of course we get an X-File key for completing that side quest. So that's pretty awesome. Isn't it weird how words can give you lots of energy? It's not like you eat them. Like, when you come home and we talk, I get all excited with lots and lots of energy. Sometimes I can't stop talking. I know the feeling. I'm so glad. Your face tells it all. You succeeded. But promise me one thing. Should you ever stray from your path, I want you to come to us. That's what family is for, isn't it? So we'll take another nap before we head to the next boss, which, oh boy. There's an interesting thing about this boss that I'll explain once we get there. It's really irritating, and you know, it's like, oh boy. It's like West Ham sandwich in a bender, basically. But yeah. Guess we could also take this time to head by the secret garden and harvest. Hopefully get some more full carrots, so we can make that salad. It'll be good times. My light just went out and then went back on for some unknown reason. It was pretty cool. The secret garden. Na na na. It's a secret garden. Na na na. Let's harvest that back. Four full carrots. That's not bad at all. That is not bad at all. I'll definitely take that. Okay, so for this next optional boss, we actually need to go back to the Den of Miasma, which is Clive's prologue dungeon, if you recall. Well, we can just warp to Ballack Rise, since it's like right there. Yeah, there's something really annoying about this boss, and I'm probably not going to bother doing it, more than likely, but you'll see. Let's just get to the Den of Miasma. I think it's around here, isn't it? Maybe I didn't open it, I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I didn't. Well, I'm pretty sure it's like right around here somewhere. Shouldn't be too hard to find. I think it pretty much has to be in this area, doesn't it? There it is. Bum 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 bum. Den of Miasma. Na, na, na. So we need to go where the path broke on the way to the Gold Drake fight. And we had to break a hole in a wall with bombs? You want it? You know how it is. We'll just head on through here. We're back at the beginning of the game. It's pretty sweet. I don't think it's up here, is it? No. Luckily, we're not poisoned this time. That's kind of nice. We gotta use bombs? You want it? Boom, 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 boom. I think it's further in. Mwah. Do. Yeah, I think it's around here. Isn't it? Could be wrong, but I think it's around here somewhere. Oh, you little packer! You're doing damage! You can't be doing damage. Come on, man. I think it's in here, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. Okay. Alright, what am I doing? Come on, man. Be cool. Bum, bum. So here's the thing about this. So these things come in threes. They're Ariochs. So they each have 150 HP and they only do one attack. It's a single non-elemental attack. Yeah. They give one experience and one Gala each. So you may be wondering, what's the point of that? What kind of fight is that? So here's how this works, basically. Let's actually beat them first. I am the Grand Duke of Vengeance, Arioch. Even though I may succumb 99 times, I shall continue to rise in order to pierce thee with my blade. My spiteful revenge is unforeseeable, and I shall creep upon thee silently, wherever thou may be, under any circumstance, without warning. Let it be known that my revenge shall cease with your demise, or with my 100th defeat. Yeah. So, how this works is you defeat them, and then they appear in another dungeon in a random battle. So you gotta go to another dungeon and fight the random battles until they appear again. And then they appear in another dungeon. And each time they get stronger until you defeat them 99 times. And then the 100th time you beat them, then you get the X-File key. So that's why it's extremely annoying, and I'm not even going to bother doing it, because it takes forever, and it's not worth it. After about 70 plus defeats, they actually start getting formidable, because they have about 15,000 HP each at that point. So I'm really not going to bother doing it, because it's just a pain in the arsehole. I'm not going to bother with that. You can do it if you want, but, you know. It literally takes forever and it's not worth it at all. But there it is. So another optional boss, I'm not sure, is the one where you have to open all the chests. I'm not sure if we've opened all the... I hope so. But we can check. But we'll see. Because there's 319 chests in the game, as I mentioned before. So, hopefully I've opened all of them by now. I don't know. So, we need to go to Fortune Gear. Excuse me. And there's the Den of Miasma. Fortune Gear, which is to the southeast. Okay. Fortune Gear. You bastard! You know what I'm talking about? Faraway lands? What the beep? What are you talking about? Oh, it's further south. Okay, I see it. I see what's going down here. I think it does tell you how many chests you've opened when you talk to it, so we'll see. The good thing is it's right here at the beginning, I do believe. It's not very far into the dungeon. It's like right up here. And we get ambushed as soon as we walk in. That is great. Ambushed by extremely weak enemies. It's pretty interesting because on May 17th, 2016, this game got remastered for the PS3. And the game actually has like trophies, achievements, 28 I believe. So it's kind of interesting. Other than that, I don't know if there are any other differences in that version, but you never know. Okay, so let's head up into here. Hopefully we got all the chests, or we're going to have to backtrack to look for them. Which would be really annoying. Yes, I wish to know. 320. There's still 5 I haven't opened. I don't know where they are, but oh boy. But if you do open them all, you fight the black box, which is kind of like a mimic boss. It has 136,000 HP, and you basically it's not really hard. It basically does like dark attacks. I don't know if I'm gonna get to fight that thing, but we'll see. It's not that big of a deal though. And of course you get an X-File key for beating it. It's not really a big deal.